My name is Laura. I'm the host. And today with me, I have Marlena. Hi, Marlena. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you for inviting.
Amazing. So, Marlena, I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you came to the ashram. What was your spiritual journey before coming? I remember a few months ago, we were in the dish pit together,
Yeah.
and I wanted to learn more about your journey. And we didn't have a chance to talk.
No.
And then you left. And it's funny how things came together now that I get to talk to you a little bit more and learn here.
Yeah.
It's a great
Yeah. That's
opportunity.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I remember that moment for sure.
Yeah, we
I
were
mean,
saying.
that's one of the specialities of Anuttara, that you're like in the middle of doing things and you still have this connection with people even
Mm,
for 5 minutes, and beautiful things can come out of it.
exactly. Yeah, and it's funny how like that wasn't the time for us to have this discussion, and things came together in such a beautiful way now that we're here. And yeah, so what year did you first come to Anuttara? How did you learn about the ashram? You're from Germany, so that's a
Yeah.
far away from home.
Yeah, that's true. So I was doing work and travel year in Canada, and I think I was
Mhm.
quite yeah, I was quite young. That was 5 years ago, so 2018. And
Okay.
I always was interested in meditation, but I knew for myself I couldn't really start. It had to click, but never, like, I had some friends doing Buddhist meditation, and I thought
Yeah.
that's cool, but I never joined. There was nothing. So we were traveling in Canada, then there's this website Workaway and the
Mm,
ashram. Like, I was googling for community meditation, I think.
yeah.
And then the ashram came up, and they was like, oh, they have a strawberry building. You're working outside in the garden. You do meditation. It's a community. I was like, I have to go. And it took me, I tried 3 times. First in fall, it didn't work out. And in the beginning
Mm,
of, and like, as you said, like, it didn't work out in spring. But then I came in summer, and it was the perfect timing because there was like the right people there to meet. And
yeah.
I was just there for a month, but it transformed my life. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still connected. And yeah,
That's so beautiful. So you even had the three attempts to come back, but again, timing wise, you ended
yeah,
up going at the perfect time.
yeah,
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you were just learning about meditation before coming to Anuttara, like you had an idea of what it was, but I'm
Yeah,
assuming, yeah.
yeah. I
So
don't
how,
really had a teacher,
yeah,
actually,
how
but
did your ideas,
sorry.
how did your ideas change about what meditation was after going to Anuttara? Like what has your ideas of spirituality even been before, and how did they transform after?
Mm. Yeah, as I said, like, I didn't really had I wanted to have a calmer mind. I think that's why I was interested in meditation,
Mm,
because like I had that puppy mind going, like, and I could observe it goes in circles, and
yeah.
like I was just like, oh, that's awful. And on the other side, I was actually doing like something what Anuttara teaches, self inquiry, like, who am I? I did that
Yeah.
before I even know it's a spiritual practice, because I
Wow.
had like a bit of like some depressive phases. Was not a real depression, but I was like sometimes feeling just like I'm not myself. Then I'm feeling like
Mhm.
myself again. I was just like, but I'm also like the one who's not feeling like myself. So where am I?
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't connect that with spirituality.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it changed my life, and I think I'm still figuring out what meditation is for myself,
Mm,
because at the ashram we're also doing like mantra recitation, and for
yeah.
me that's not really meditation. Like, I think I'm growing my own understanding of what meditation is.
Hmm.
I think meditation nowadays, I mean, it's like you can see it as a period to sit where you just allow everything to be as it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the core of meditation for me. And sometimes you need techniques before, like counting your breath or doing
Yes.
mantra, to come to that point. But then, like, meditation becomes your life. It's not, I mean,
Mm,
I'm still sitting and, having like this posture and like, oh yeah, I'm meditating. But
yeah.
I more recognize that, like, now my whole life becomes a meditation.
Wow.
And that's not happened overnight. That's a journey. It's an ongoing journey, an ever deepening journey.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And you know what? Like what you said about just being able to sit with what is, that's hard a lot of the times. Have
Yeah.
you learned any tools from Anuttara that have helped you stay present in the moment? Because so your mind gets crazy, different emotions come up. How are you able to course through that? What did you learn?
I mean, that's a tricky question, not because I didn't learn anything, but I learned so many things. And at different
Hmm.
stages on the journey, like different things apply. So when you start out, or when I started out, it was way more difficult. And what helped me
Yeah.
then was just having, like, for example, do the mantra recitation or breath awareness and connecting to
Hmm.
the heart, or like doing yoga before meditating, that the system is already calm helps. What also helped me, like I said, I think Byrav said that, like my first time I ever meditated was at the ashram. Second day I was there, like 1 hour meditation. I was just like, I don't even know what to do. And he was like, like sitting for 1 hour, and he said, like, listen to the silence between the thoughts.
Mm.
And if you want to establish a meditation practice, do something that you can stick to. Like, you
Mhm.
can, if you say, like, I cannot do, like, because in the ashram, for example, you are like with other people, you're in community, and that's always easier to sit then and to
Yeah.
focus, because you hear the breathing of others, and you have,
Yes.
like, I mean, not, also like the perception that you're held in a space. If you're alone, that's more tricky, it can be more tricky. And so what he said, like, just if you're at home and meditating, just
Hmm.
choose a time span which is like you're sure you can sit. If you
Right.
know like hour is difficult, then don't do an hour. Do half
Yeah.
an hour. If that's not working, do 15 minutes. Maybe
Yeah.
do 2 times 15 minutes, or 3 times 5 minutes a day. Like,
Yeah.
just like set that space for yourself, and like
Mm.
experiment like with how long you can sit for yourself. And
Yeah.
um, I really thought it was great.
And so, how did that affect you? How did you end up starting getting into your practice, and how did it deepen over time?
Mm. I think the thing for me with Anuttara is that, like, people arrive there. I don't know. For me, it was just like a bunch of synchronicity. So when I arrived, I was ready. And I think some people come
Hmm.
to the ashram, take like a peek, dip their toes in, and like leave, and that's the experience they need to have. And they get a
Yeah.
flavor, and that's it. And for me,
Hmm.
it was like I'm jumping head over in there.
Sink or swim.
No dipping toes, no.
Yeah.
So can you remind me on your question?
Yeah, I was curious how that unfolded for you, like by Rob's advice, but now even saying like you dove in, like what
Yeah.
was it about what you learned or what you saw that made you want to dive in? That's brave to have that courage and also that
Mm.
pull. What caused that? Can you reflect or find that?
I think, and that's something it's not, I cannot take any credit for that, but there's like this
Mhm.
longing in myself,
Mhm.
and it was like elicited, like in being in the ashram. But there's this longing to know, not only to know what is true, but also to experience it and to embody it. And I
Mhm.
mean, that's what Anuttara is teaching. Like,
Yeah.
they are like covering all of those aspects,
Yeah.
like the intellectual understanding, the embodiment of it, like the knowing of the heart. And it just, everything felt right. So, like, picking like one thing, what changed it, I don't know, but it's like the whole bundle.
Everything. Yeah, it's like a perfect kind of storm where it all aligns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I mean, for example, like there's a little stories like at the ashram. I was there, and like they don't have it anymore, but at the yoga hall they had teachers which inspired them. And I found that
Mhm.
great. They're like, they're not drawing just from one source, even though they have like Guruji in India, but they're like so open to like all different
Yeah.
views. And so there was this wall of teachers, and I think Adamus said, you know what, pick one of them, like, if, or not pick, but they just look and see if one of them is resonating with you. And one of them did for me. And then, like, I was reading his books for 2 years straight. But it's like just like small things, and that was just like, it was something tiny happening at the ashram, but it had such a ripple effect on my
Mhm.
whole life, to be introduced to
Wow.
that teacher, and um, yeah, to the teaching of Anuttara themselves, for sure.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and I love that because it feels like our teachers at Anuttara have had so much, like so many years of experience, And then when you go to Anuttara, it feels like instead of having to do all these years of searching and all this time and energy, it's like that's given to you. You know, all the work they've done, like you can already just come to what they know and they give you that, what everything they've learned.
Yeah, and now we can start off and saying like what I all learned, and that's like one of the true amazing things I learned at Anuttara, because they're like they're trauma aware,
Mhm.
inclusive. They're making this blend between like Western psychology, like honoring Eastern traditions, like
Mhm.
honoring like the practicalities of life. I mean, it's tantric approach, but it's like there's like everything. Like they have
Yes.
like a political social understanding. There's
Yeah.
like they're so like inclusive, and inclusive beyond humans as well. It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah,
I
such
love what you said. Yeah,
mm,
that it's incredible. It's so true, you know, and it's so relevant to today's time, like to live in the world as a human being. Like we can't really follow these ancient traditions because a lot of the things are not relevant or they haven't kind of kept the modern life in mind. Versus Anuttara, it brings the best from the ancient teachings and brings the best of the psychology and the modern teachings, and it kind of brings it all into one where it's yeah, it's beautiful. Um, and earlier you touched on the heart. I'd love to hear what the heart means to you. The tantric heart is a big teaching from Anuttara. What
mm.
would you say the tantric heart is from your understanding?
So first I would say like for like especially what the tantric heart is, like ask Artemis and Byrife. I know they've just published a free ebook, and it's just like amazing to read.
Mm,
And like I just try to explain what the heart means from my experience, because I don't
mm,
right now I don't have the concepts readily. But for me, I mean, there's the thing with the heart, that it's like you have like cognitive knowledge, but then you have the wisdom of the heart,
mm,
and that wisdom is connected to something, I mean, deeper maybe. Like, and you can call it whatever name, whatever, but it's like it incorporates all of the human knowing, but also of the divine knowing. And for me,
mm,
it's just like returning to the heart is like it's also the deepest intention you set for your life, and it's like, yeah, it's a returning home, and then everything is clear. You just have to listen, and that
mm,
listening to the heart is something, um, I mean, it's worthless. It's like not even a whisper. It's like a knowing, and and you cannot tell you how I know what I know, but I just know. And
wow,
it's just like that flavor of the heart. um yeah.
it's beautiful. That's such a beautiful like description of it. Like how
Mm.
you're really touching on the quietude, not even a whisper. Sounds poetic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the only reason I would be able to describe the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, like, one of the first times you've connected to the heart? A lot of people, when they're first starting the journey, you know, it is an abstract concept sometimes. So sometimes, like, I know for me, I really tried to use my mind to connect to the heart at first. So that didn't work. How did you first connect to the heart? Can you tell me about, like, an experience you've had?
It's hard to tell, because like for myself, like I can relate to what you're saying, that like come there's a lot of mind here as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had that access somehow, like in moments,
Mm-hmm.
like I think everybody has, like we are all connected to our heart. We just um yeah, forget, or like gets overlaid with other things. But um so it's like there's not like this aha moment where I like connected to
Mm-hmm.
my heart, but um it's like, I mean, my heart is but the heart is guiding me. And I think one of the first things, like I think coming to the ashram and being infused in that community and that space really kind of ignited that. Like it
Wow.
was there before, like like little embers, and then like being at the
Mm.
ashram kind of like lit the fire up. And then like throughout my journey, I had like different moments where I was like myself being like I'm flowing into that fire, that burns
Beautiful.
more. Yeah, and different teachings and different
Mm.
experiences.
What do you think being in the ashram and being in the community, what do you think helped ignite those embers?
Mm. As we said before, it's like this mix, and I
Thanks.
think like community is super important. You have like people dedicated, and you know, if you see people dedicated from your heart and from their heart, and like, you know, dedicated with their whole being to something, and
Mm,
people at the ashram are dedicated, and they're like, it's like this it's like such a love and such a care for
mm,
everything in life, and to like radiate that, and you know, bring that, like that knowing from the heart, like in our world with our all human, um yeah, not you know, our humanness in it. And
yeah.
so like that community and that dedicated people, and that people are not just only dedicated to the heart, but also like the structure of
Mm,
having like a dedicated practice.
mhm.
And I mean, in the ashram, it's like asanas and meditation and like fire ceremonies, all of that. And yeah, I think like finding like your way of, uh, yeah, having such a practice. And for me, like the practices at Anuttara really helped, because you have the body involved with the asanas, you have them stilling the mind with meditation, you have like practice also like seva, like active, being active in the community.
Mhm.
So that structure of all of that, I
Right.
guess,
Right.
um, very important. And I think, yeah, it's like the last thing to say is maybe the interlink between these practices, like also like the dedicated times for practice, like an hour meditation every day and doing
Right.
yoga, and then like embodying that in like mowing
Mm,
the lawn, and like building
mhm.
compost toilets, and like cooking or whatever you're doing, and embodying that in that is not different.
Wow.
It's also a practice. And I think
Right.
that's then it, if you get that, and I got that quite quickly,
Mhm.
luckily, it's easy to carry that in your own life. It's like
Mm,
your whole, you know, it's like you learn there to like live from that space of dedication, every minute, every now. And yeah,
oh,
that.
I love how you put it and how beautifully like that flowed too. Like you're right. It's like these practices and going back to what you said earlier, it's that they kind of build the ability to stay present and to be with life in those everyday moments. And it's so true. And now it's the first time I'm actually seeing it because of the way you put it. It's like, you're right, we have these practices in the morning, for example, but then we have opportunities to integrate that with just everyday life. Whether, yeah, you're right, it's cooking or cleaning or talking to a friend. It's such a beautiful integration of the whole mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you realize that the heart we spoke about is always there, and
Hmm.
it, you know, you're always connected to it. And I know sometimes I'm using my mind a lot, studying or whatever, but still the heart is there, and I
Hmm.
can, you know, it's still there and it's still guiding.
Hmm.
And I sometimes I need like some practice to reconnect when
Right.
I'm lost. um and sometimes, but it's never lost.
That's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
it's like that's, you're right. And even what you said about like not having this aha moment because it's so quiet and it's always present that there doesn't need to be this aha moment because it's maybe something so familiar too.
And I
Yeah.
mean, I did had aha moments in my journey, which were
Hmm.
like, whoa, what's happening here? And like, oh my God, how could anyone never see how beautiful this life is? And you know, how
Mm,
miraculous, and you know, all of that.
mm,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Yeah. So I know you did the teacher training with Anuttara in India. What year was that?
That was 2019, so 4 years ago.
2019. Yeah. And you did a cacao ceremony.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your experience. Do you remember kind of what happened and
Mm.
what your journey was like?
I'm just guessing that the cacao ceremony you did like really touched you.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, we did it in Costa Rica and it was wow, such a special and beautiful journey.
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, the cacao ceremony also, and especially how Artemis guided us, like it's still really
Mhm.
very vivid in my memory, and it's like very heart opening. But um, what I really loved then was like that, before that cacao ceremony, we did a lot of like psycho spiritual work. And that was
Yeah.
one of the reasons I wanted to do the yoga teacher training, because as I said before, I knew like my psyche is like, have like a bit of tendencies to have like depressive phases. And
Mhm.
I was just like, I feel like I can find resolution in what, in the practices. And so like this
Yeah.
psycho spiritual work was kind of the, because I think for myself to be able to access the heart, because as I said before, we are layering, like there's conditioning, and
Mhm.
some degree of conditioning is very good in society, but some of that is
Right.
maybe unhealthy. Then we have our personal like history
Yeah.
traumas, maybe from other generations, maybe collective, whatever, and all of that can like layer on in front of the heart. So
Mm.
like and cacao can help to kind of access the heart, but also like
Mm.
the work and the drama awareness I really want to highlight is like the work you do, like to see through the other stuff, maybe by yourself, through inquiry, through journaling, like also helps to open the heart. So I really loved in my teacher training how there was this wisdom of combining those things together,
Right.
to first look at those things which are blocking them, and then using like a different way.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And you know what? That's something I love too about Anuttara. I completely agree. It's that, like you said earlier too, it looks at every single aspect of being a human. You know, it doesn't look at just one part. It makes it so that it's easier because I think there is a recognition of the fact that this is not necessarily always easy for people, or, you know, we get in our own way a lot of the time, right? So the having the right environment for, like they say, the seed to grow is so important too. So you look at all these different things, and then it becomes so much more easy and accessible too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's like something also what would really struck me and strikes me, oh, like in my journey, is like also the recognition that, everything is sacred. And I
Mm,
mean, like some of those things we're experiencing, like our struggling and our pain, and there's so much suffering in the world,
yeah.
which, it's hard to see that as sacred. But
Right.
there's like this recognition that even you can say, like, no, don't do it like that. There is a boundary crossed, and that's not how you treat other humans, and how not how you treat nature. And be able to
Right.
say a clear no doesn't mean you not still recognize the sacredness in the other.
Mm,
And that differentiated view is something like which is often missing, because we then say, okay, that's ugly, that's not divine, and
right. Right.
that's like the good. And then
Yeah.
we're again in separation, and like when we're in separation, like we suffer like in one point in time.
Yeah. And do you have any examples in your everyday life where you see that, you know, like in terms of having these, now you have this wisdom, you know, that you can access, but life brings along a lot of challenges, you know, and it tests us constantly. Can you maybe tell me about a time where you've had a test come up and how you dealt with it using, you know, what you've gained?
Yeah. I mean, because for my life, I really dedicated my being to that journey. So like it's so different, like to pick one event, because I feel like every moment, like there's life is growing itself, and I'm not tested, but like invited to grow.
Yeah.
And then like there are phases where it's more difficult.
Mm,
Um, but the thing is like with a with a commitment, like in the moment where like tough stuff is happening, there's
yeah.
also like the remembrance that there's also like the like not help, but the support is there as well. I'm like
Mm,
challenged that it will resolve somehow. And sometimes, it involves me actively like fighting for something, or like breaking free of like some condition.
mm,
The tool what I learned at Anuttara is like to like from that wisdom of the heart to discern. Now it gets tricky when how to deal with every situation, to have the self inquiry
right.
like going on all the time. um and then still, it's hard to describe, but it's like this, um, it's just this awareness of every moment,
Mm,
and like how life is inviting me to step forward. And
mm,
sometimes it's, I need more rest. Sometimes I need to be active, and it's just like it, I'm I'm stumbling with words because like this experience is so hard to describe, and
yeah.
and it's also hard to describe for me the journey, because like if I look at 5 years ago, it's so different. Like I was like,
Mm.
I don't know how I navigated life then, but it was it was really hard. And nowadays, like life is challenging, but it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can, I see the layers of conditioning, and I can like recognize like the more I think I'm a me separate from
Mm,
everything, like the more I know I'm like contracted, there's like pain in my
mhm.
body, or like, something I'm suppressing. And like sometimes I forget that and I'm totally a me. And then like at one point I always remember. And then I can be like that, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm not somebody. I am I something. And so in between it moves.
Yeah.
And the tools at Anuttara and like the teachings help me to be aware of that movement, of that contraction opening, and
Mhm.
not to condemn it that like that's bad and that's good, but more
Mm.
like, yeah, it's different state of being. And it feels more comfortable to be in that space, I have to
Right.
say, than being like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
help me, I'm a little human. But
Yeah.
that's also like that's an experience. And the more, the more often I can inquire in it, the more often I can connect to my heart when I'm in here. And also sometimes, yeah, use different tools I learned at the ashram. The more it's allowed to move, it becomes like that, and it's
Mm.
not so important anymore if it's bad or like that.
Yeah.
Hope that makes
Brilliant.
somehow sense.
That was so beautiful. The way you articulated that, like you should write a book the way you described it. It's so, so beautiful, you know, and I love that. And I love that reminder about the fact that this isn't bad and this isn't necessarily good. Like there like we like to have preferences and there's likes and dislikes and sometimes we want to pull something forward and push something else away. But that's a beautiful reminder. And you're right, that's something that Anuttara constantly reminds us that nothing is good or bad. Like there's a beauty and there's a peace and stillness in just allowing life to unfold the way it needs to.
Yeah, and without getting into relativism that everything is now, the same, which is not true. There's like this uniqueness, and there's also like everything is the same on a certain level, and then
Mm,
there's also at the same time like the uniqueness of everything and everyone, and
mm,
um, there's also like that tremendous beauty in that uniqueness, and you don't have to decide, and you don't have to escape into transcendence from the
mm,
humanness, but you also have like limited access of reality if you're just in your humanness
right.
and you don't open. So
Yeah. How for you, like how does it feel like living with that? Like how does that affect maybe the way you approach, just everyday life? Like how does it feel? Does it bring you any specific feeling?
yeah, it's, as I said before, it's so totally different. Like it's I mean, I do have the experience of everyday life, but often there's like just like that knowing that everything is a miracle. And then,
Mm.
cleaning my toilet is also a miracle, than doing like the things I
That's
really love to
beautiful.
do. It's like, I mean, still, there's still preferences, but it's just, my life is just completely turned upside down. And I know I can see it like in myself, how I experience more lightness, more joy. Like I
Hmm.
didn't had any depressive phase since a long time, and even if
Wow.
I'm in that state of contraction, I know now what to do, like what things to
Yeah.
inquire. Like it's just, I can also recognize how that, you know how the journey empowers me to be more myself. And through that, like in my uniqueness, but also as the non-self, whatever, there's
Yeah.
just like a flow in life, and it's possible to touch really the other, other hearts, um, and be really in you, you're real in relationship with what's happening. If you're by like if I'm by myself, or if I'm relating to my
Mhm.
friends and like dealing with different challenges. You
Yeah.
know, I think the most important thing is that, as I said before, that remembrance that everything is sacred, even if I say
Mhm.
no, no boundary.
This no.
But you know,
Yeah.
yeah, and that like, and that in tiny things like being with the cashier in the supermarket, you can have like
Mm.
a it's not just you're like, oh God. I mean, that can happen too. Like I'm super in my mind, and but
Mhm.
normally it's just like, wow, we're here
Yeah.
right now.
Hmm. So you recognize the miracle of life, and there is an ability to flow with what happens. Yeah, that's beautiful, and that's something we all want. This sense of connection to the world around us. I feel like we all look for it in so many different ways. Like when you look at the world and what we are all doing, it's like that this grasping towards connection and towards being able to just relax with life and to appreciate it. Right? It is so short, and it is such a glimpse in space and time, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful, Marlena. I would love to
Yeah.
know if you were to give maybe a piece of advice to yourself 5 years ago or to somebody just beginning the spiritual path, what would you say to them?
Mm. I mean, it's difficult. It really depends on the person and where you
Mm,
are. Um, but I think the most important thing is like to listen to yourself, and
mm,
not to to be just gentle with yourself. Um,
mm,
because we can make the spiritual just like another search for something, and that might to happen, but there's like we don't have to run that much, and and you just
mm,
know. And if you don't have access to that knowing, if you're dedicated, and you feel that longing, then everything will happen for you, to you, not for you. And it may be difficult, but it's like just
mm,
like I think the advice is like just know what is it what you want, like
mm,
what you're here for. And don't look for somebody else and somebody's like, I want the truth, I want to, that may be not true for you. You just
right.
maybe want to have more peace in your mind. And
Mhm,
that's the same, value. There's like no ranking in that. But
mm,
know for yourself, be true to yourself, what you want out of the practice, why you are here. And in general, that always helps if you have like know what your life is, oriented around.
right.
And that's something nobody can say. And it's really,
Mm.
you need to have kind of yeah, contemplative inquiry around that.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's a kind of having like a North Star, something guiding you, and something that it's from you. That's beautiful. Like not something maybe you hear someone say or something that maybe sounds good, but something that you really want and to let yourself orient towards that. And I love what you said earlier too about it like happening for you. And that's something I think I always forget. Like, sometimes we think things are happening to us, but to just that one word to say for you, that's
Mm.
a great reminder. And I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
interesting. I just remember, I think Adam has said, well, like when we were in the ashram in October, like about like what you place in the altar of your heart, but you don't have to call it altar, like what you place in your heart, and it
mm,
does can change. And like I agree with her, it does can change, and something is always the same. And
mm,
it's like that's like also another paradox, but it's not a paradox. Like something can change what's like in the center of the altar. You don't have to put something and cling to that, and it changes and still it is the same
wow.
over and over again.
Hmm, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Marlena. And thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. This was such a beautiful
Yeah,
conversation, and I'm so happy we got to
yeah,
chat. Yeah, and to
me too.
anyone watching, we do this every Saturday, so welcome to join us. Yeah, this was such a wonderful time, Marlena. Thank you
Mm.
so much.
Thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful day, night, and
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
yeah, bye bye.